In 2016, California wife and mother Sherry Papini disappeared for 22 days. When she was found, she told authorities a detailed account of being kidnapped and tortured. Years later, in a stunning twist, Papini pled guilty to making false statements about what happened to her, setting off a media firestorm. Now, for the first time, Sherry Papini is telling her side of the story and revealing shocking new information. Sherry Papini, Caught in a Lie, an ID documentary event, Monday, May 26th at 9 on ID. Set your DVR. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 91 of the True Crime All the Time podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, what's going on?
Hey, man, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Yeah?
Another week under our belts.
We do. Done. Check it off.
You marking them off like a calendar? Or
Nah, in my head.
you just check them? You have your own system in your head?
It works.
Another week down.
Another
Check.
week down. And you're like, it's only Tuesday. I'm like, it's done.
That's a bad thing.
Yeah.
I talked to Gibbs during the middle of the week, and he's like, hey, have a great weekend. I said,
Yeah.
Gibbs, it's Wednesday.
I know. But just want to make sure I got it out there. One less thing I have to say later.
Oh, it is so nice, though, you and I working together again.
Yeah.
And I mean, in the same building.
Yeah, in the same building. And we are kind of working together again on some
We are.
projects, you
We're
know?
working on some projects and stuff like that. It's really cool.
Yeah, so I like that.
So we get to see more of each other at work than we have in the past couple years.
Yeah, it's been a while, so it's good.
Listen, we got a lot of new Patreon supporters.
We do?
So got to give some shout outs.
All right, let's do it.
I had Elizabeth Cloud,
Hey, Elizabeth.
Jess,
Hey, Jess.
Paul Redman,
Paul.
Amanda Foster, Phoebe Hinton, Roya Daw,
Roya. Okay.
Danielle Guerra, Uber Chic Polish.
Uber Seek Polish.
Yep.
Okay.
Rachel Root,
Hey, Rachel.
Carol,
Just Carol.
Jess Burnson,
Hey, Jess.
Matt Thompson,
Hey, Matt.
Nikki,
Nicky.
Jane Dafter,
Cool.
Greta Soderstrand,
Hey, Greta.
John Daly, Jennifer Stoddard,
Hey.
Lisa Wood Gray, Kelly Simmons, Doreen Woods, Raj Sidhu,
Hey, Raj.
Diane Colby, Mary Beth Butcher, Leanne Waltz, Kelly Hurst, Holly Hansard, Pip Stevenson,
Hey, Pip.
Sarah Michelle.
How you doing?
How you doing?
How you doing?
Nicole Avik-Poyen. Not sure how close I got on that one, Gibbs, but
Pretty close.
Madison Paul, Bridget Chang jumped out at our highest level, Brittany Ramallo, Angela Loeb, Natalie Hall,
Thank you.
Hannah Iverson,
Hey, Hannah.
Christine Monroe, and Amber Geiken.
Hey, Amber.
And if we go back into the vault, Gibbs, this week we selected Sherry Escobar. Been with us a long time. We appreciate that long time support.
We love it, man.
We appreciate all of our Patreon support. The new folks, the people that stick with us month after month. It is awesome. And we also love our PayPal
We do love
folks.
our
We had a
PayPal.
couple of PayPal donations. We had Ania Howard,
Ania.
Ania,
Hi, Ania.
and Wanda Richland.
Well, I appreciate that.
We do. We appreciate that a lot. All right, we got some jam-packed episodes.
Jam-packed.
Jam-packed.
Like, couldn't get it in there any further. It's packed. It's jam. Spilling over.
So on True Crime All the Time Unsolved, we're talking about Jimmy Hoffa.
We are.
It's a big one.
It is big.
It's a big unsolved case.
Where's he at?
You know, he's under the Giant Stadium.
Is he?
He's encased in this.
Yeah.
He's buried here
Yeah, he's in your car. He got shredded up with some cars.
with an old car.
Sent over to Japan. Yeah, who knows where he's at. It's like trying to find Waldo.
There are a lot of theories about where Jimmy Hoffa is. But for me, you know, one of the things that fascinates me about Jimmy Hoffa is I lived in Detroit.
Yeah, you did.
So I know a lot of the areas.
Yeah, you probably know where that restaurant was.
Yeah,
too.
I know a lot of the areas around where the story takes place.
Yeah.
So.
It's captivating.
It is. So that's unsolved, but let's get into true crime all the time. We're talking about Paul Bernardo and Karla Homolka.
Yeah, what a couple.
Yeah, you could say that. What a couple. This is, I think, Gibbs, outside of, maybe Gacy, Dahmer, some of those big ones, this is one of the most requested stories that we've had since we started the podcast.
Yeah, I would agree with you. It's definitely been one of those ones where everybody wanted to hear about him and her.
Yep. Because I think it fascinated a lot of people. And there's a couple reasons for that. They were a good-looking couple. They were young. They had a lot going for them.
Yeah.
But they were into some really dark stuff.
See, to me, it just doesn't matter. I mean, good-looking people kill too.
No, you're right. They do. I just think they get more airtime.
They do get, they definitely got more airtime because of the way they look.
I mean, you look at Jodi Arias,
Yeah.
Casey Anthony. It just seems like good-looking people tend to hit the media airwaves just a tad bit more for what they do.
They do. I mean, sex sells, always has.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
If you're a good-looking serial killer, you're going to get more airtime than somebody that looks a little rough, unless you look like really scary.
So I think that's part of it, but I also think the details.
Yeah.
The details of what they did, they just astonished people.
Yeah. Well, they were Canadian too.
Well, they were Canadian. I'm not sure how much that has to do with it.
It doesn't. I just like messing with my Canadian peeps.
So you're right, Gibbs. We're in Canada.
Yeah.
But I know I've been fascinated by this case for a long time.
You've talked about it.
I have. And I think I probably first heard about it on American Justice or one of those shows that I watched when I was younger. I always blame Bill Curtis or not blame him, but I'm sure it was one of his shows. But between that and it being such a requested show, I'm not really sure why it took us so long, because it was one of the very first cases I wrote down when we started the podcast. So, but here we are.
Here we are. We're doing it, man.
In Bernardo and Homolka, we're talking about a killer couple who are infamous. There's no doubt about that. Not just for the way they killed, but for who they killed and the reasons behind the murders and some of the other crimes. Like we mentioned, good-looking couple, and that, along with the details of their crimes, it caused them to be splashed all around the world.
Yeah, it really did.
Newspapers, television. Now, the funny thing about it is in Canada at the time, and I don't know if it's still like this, but when I was researching this, most of the details of their crimes could not be broadcast in Canada on either the television or in the papers.
That bad, huh?
I'm not sure what law or what it was, but there was definitely a lot in the research about people. A lot of people in Canada didn't know exactly what happened until later on. Whereas, in the United States, it was in the papers. It was all over. The details were there. They've been called the Ken and Barbie killers.
Yeah.
Add to that the fact that Paul Bernardo was a prolific serial rapist before and after he even met Homolka.
Which is a whole nother, that's just a whole nother side of
it's almost like he had two different criminal careers. That's probably not the right word for it.
Yeah.
But to me, what really captivates people about this story, Gibbs, is the role that Karla played. I mean, she not only knew about Bernardo's rapes and murders, but she approved. And
man, how do you, let's just tell you how sick she was. I mean, how do you approve your boyfriend, spouse, whoever, okay, go rape somebody? How do you?
And not only that, but she helped him carry some of the criminal acts out, including one of the most well-known, which was against her very own sister. And of course, we're gonna get to all that. But there's so much in this case. This is going to be a two-parter. There's no doubt about that. But we've profiled a few of these killer couples. We did the Bernies out of Australia. We did the Sunset Strip killer, Doug Clark, and his girlfriend, Carol Bundy. But there are quite a few on the list. You know, Fred and Rosemary West are on the list. When you research it, there are a lot of these cases that involve couples that kill together, a lot more than I would have thought. But as we always do, let's dive into backgrounds, because we've got two that we're going to do. We're going to start with Paul, though. Paul Bernardo was born on August 27th, 1964, in the Scarborough area of Toronto, to Kenneth and Marilyn Bernardo. Well, kind of. Kenneth Bernardo is listed on the birth certificate, but we'll get into that scandal in a minute. Paul was born into a little bit of money. His mother, Marilyn, had been adopted by a wealthy Toronto attorney. She was raised in a stable environment, had a good childhood. His father, Kenneth, grew up the son of an Italian immigrant who started a successful marble and tile business. So he grew up with a little bit of money as well. But unlike Marilyn's situation, Kenneth's father was abusive. So these two married in 1960, Kenneth and Marilyn. Marilyn had come out of a relationship with a man that she was in love with. But this was a guy that her father didn't approve of. And we've all been there, Gibbs. I'm sure there were many, many fathers who did not approve of you during the courtship of their daughters.
You know what? There was a few.
There's a couple.
There was a few. Yeah, they didn't appreciate
your sense of humor.
My sense of humor. Maybe
the fact that you were always asking them for money.
You know, hey, I'm taking your daughter out.
Would you
spot me?
Would you give me a sawbuck?
Yeah,
because that's all you needed back then when you were courting.
Yeah,
you could get a filet mignon dinner for $5.
That's right. It was
No,
good
I'm just
times,
kidding.
man. No, I mean it's yeah. I mean there was definitely some. I'm a pretty nice guy overall.
I would say you are.
So I mean,
that's why I give you so much.
I went. You know, I did well with most parents, but there was a few. You know, that thought maybe I might be too nice. What's the end game here?
Like, what's behind those eyes?
What's behind that sweet Gibby face?
Like he's putting on an act like a serial killer would.
Exactly.
Like a psychopath. No, I'm just giving you a hard time, but I was always better with moms.
Oh, I bet.
The moms liked me. I'm not so sure how much, some of the girls' dads liked me.
Yeah.
But that's normal. I've got my own daughters. It's not like I'm jumping up and down for them to date. I'm not
did all right. I mean, I didn't have too many problems with.
Well, I'm not asking you how well you did. That wasn't part of the part of the conversation.
The objective was just to get your date out the door.
Yeah. That was a success. Yeah. If you didn't ruin it to the point where the dad was like, "No, I think this is over."
Yeah.
Before
you ever had that happen?
No.
Not once?
No, because I always had them run out the window and meet me. I would park down the block.
Well, you were kind of a bad boy.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
So Marilyn's father didn't approve of this guy. I mean, basically, though, not because he was a bad guy, but because he didn't have money. He wasn't educated to the point that Marilyn's father thought he was marriage material. I'll put it that way. And the marriage of Kenneth and Marilyn was rocky because just like his father, Kenneth was abusive. They had a son and a daughter before Paul came along. But it was after the birth of her first two children. Marilyn is in the middle of this abusive relationship. She has two kids. She turned back to the man that she had been in love with before, marrying Kenneth. The same guy that didn't have the money, didn't have the education that her father wanted for her. She began an affair with this man and eventually became pregnant with little Paul. So this is how Paul was born.
Yeah.
And apparently, Kenneth Bernardo took this in stride. I'm not saying he was happy about it, but he signed his name on the birth certificate and became Paul's father. But this guy had his own issues, Kenneth. He was caught fondling a young girl and was convicted of sexual assault. He was a peeping Tom, wandering the streets at night, looking into windows. And this is something that Paul Bernardo would do as well when he got older. It's been alleged that Kenneth even began to sexually abuse his very own biological daughter.
That's sick, man.
I just can never wrap my head around that. I mean, the stuff that you and I talk about, most of it is very hard to understand how anyone could do the things they do. But this especially, I guess it's because I have daughters. It burns me up, thinking about that, because I just cannot understand it. But you have to wonder, Gibbs, how much of this Paul knew about, because eventually he's going to know about it. He's going to find out about it.
Sure.
But you have to wonder, how much of it influenced his future actions.
Probably a good amount of it.
Because he's going to do some similar things, for sure. Now, he's going to do much worse.
That's what he learned.
There's no doubt that Paul Bernardo grew up in a dysfunctional household. He experienced both physical and emotional abuse. His mother, Marilyn, spiraled into a deep depression. She just stopped taking care of herself. And normally, as a mother, if you're not taking care of yourself, you're probably not taking care of your kids very well. She began to rapidly put on weight. And it said, Gibbs, that essentially she started living her life almost exclusively in the basement of the family home. Like, that just became her place.
Really?
And she was down there by herself. So I think the kids at a lot of times were on their own. But Paul Bernardo was described as a happy child. So at least on the outside, he portrayed the image of, this sweet, cute, all-American kid. He did well in school. People described him as polite and well-mannered. He was very active in the Boy Scouts, something that continued through his teenage years. And he had a couple of close friends that were in the Boy Scouts with him, but he and his friends did like to start fires. And we've talked about that before. That can be an indicator of some sorts. It can just be kids too, liking to play with fire.
Right.
Paul was a good-looking kid, would grow up to be a pretty good-looking guy, but he drew the attention of all the girls in school. He lost his virginity at the age of 15 to his first love, an attractive blonde named Nadine Brammer. Nadine. That was his first love. Most of the girls that Paul dated said that he was shy and extremely thoughtful. But Nadine has said some very different things. Said he was very controlling. He was overprotective. I guess after they broke up, he became extremely upset and set fire to everything that she had ever given him. And I think she probably had him pegged, because this idea of Paul being controlling, getting very upset, it's going to come up again in later relationships. At the age of 16, Paul got into an argument with his mother. And I guess it got pretty heated. And in one exchange, his mother called him a bastard and revealed that Kenneth was not his real father. And she produced a picture of his real dad. And Paul was devastated by this. So he didn't find out until he was 16 years old. And from that point forward, his relationship with his mother would never be good. He started mocking her. He started calling her names to her face, like bad names, calling her whore, calling her slob, calling her, fat, things like this. And you go back to the guy that he thought was his father. This guy was a sexual deviant. He started to despise his parents. He thought of his mother as a whore. It's thought by a lot of professionals, mental health professionals, that it's this incident that probably changed Paul's thoughts about women. So things are not all rosy in the world of Paul Bernardo. But the guy did well in high school. He was intelligent. He was hardworking. He apparently worked odd jobs after school from the age of 12. I started working when I was 14.
Did you?
Yeah. How about you?
What was your first job?
My very first job, well, we owned a drive-through,
Okay.
so I worked there.
Yeah.
And then my first job outside of that was at 16.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of what it was.
Don't remember what it was?
Mm-mm.
Well,
Oh, I think I worked at Sam's. I pulled the carts in.
Oh, you're a cart chaser.
I was a cart guy.
Yeah. No, I started early. I mean, I had paper route and cut grass, whatever. Made money, did what I had to, put food on the table.
You've always been a guy that did whatever he had to get by.
That's right. Had to do
whatever he had to.
Whatever. Well, that's
See, I stressed that part.
yeah. Thanks for that. I'm not afraid of work.
No, you definitely aren't. You're a hard worker, but so was Paul Bernardo.
Yeah.
I'm not putting you guys together in any way other than
I
that.
was really smart in school too.
You were very smart in school.
Yeah.
And just like Paul Bernardo, you wanted to make something out of yourself.
Yes.
And he really did. He had a lot of drive. And he had an affinity for business. So he graduated from high school at the age of 17. And after that, he was recruited into Amway. Now, ultimately, Paul wouldn't make a lot of money at Amway, but he did immerse himself into the selling techniques that they taught. And it's these selling techniques that he would take with him, using them not only like in future jobs, but in his personal life as well. He started buying up as many motivational books and tapes as he could get his hands on. The guy wanted to be rich, and he thought he could use this information to help him get there. And it was during this period of his life that, he's hitting the bars with his friends, going out on a nightly basis. So you got to set the scene, right? Paul Bernardo is a good-looking guy. He's self-assured. He's been studying all of these sales techniques from a variety of experts. You put these factors together, and it allowed him to pick up girls at a staggering rate. A good-looking, self-assured guy with some sales game. And apparently,
that's a dangerous combination, man. Really? I mean, you think about it.
For good and bad. It can be dangerously good for you to succeed in life. You can also use it to do some bad things.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a good salesperson, you're confident, good looking, yeah, you can definitely go out there and break some hearts.
You can make some legitimate money. You can be a con man. You can do all kinds of things.
Yeah, sure can.
But it was said that he and his friends would go out on the town. They would make up like backstories for themselves to kind of embellish where they were in life to make it even easier to pick up women. So I'm thinking, Gibbs, of one of your favorite movies, Wall Street.
Yeah.
Little Gordon Gekko. Bud Fox.
Yeah.
Now, you can't really compare Bernardo to Charlie Sheen. Well, you can a little bit. Not to the extreme, right? Couple of good-looking guys. Charlie Sheen did have his downward spiral, but Bernardo's going to be much darker, obviously, than anything Charlie Sheen ever did.
Yeah.
And that's saying something because he did some crazy stuff too, but nothing like Paul Bernardo.
Nothing.
So Paul enrolled at the Scarborough campus of the University of Toronto in the fall of '83. And it was during this time that his sexual fantasies started to become even darker. He got into dominating women and preferred forceful anal sex. He was physically abusive. He was verbally abusive to the women he dated. He enjoyed humiliating them, very much like he did to his mom, I guess.
I was gonna say, it sounds just like that.
Calling them names and putting them down. Now, that's not how he picked them up, right? It's kind of hard to pick women up using that technique. But once he was in a relationship or any sort of relationship, that's where he went to. And he also threatened them, that if they told anyone what he did to them, he would kill them. This would later come out from many girlfriends of Paul Bernardo. So the women in his life, they didn't stay around very long. He was able to attract women very easily, but getting them to stick around was much tougher. And for some strange reason, Gibbs, women didn't seem to want to stick around to be tied up, beaten.
Imagine that.
Belittled.
Yeah.
humiliated. I mean, who in the hell's going to stick around for that?
Exactly.
Well, we're going to find out.
I was going to say.
There's going to be one.
There's going to be one.
There's going to be one person. But it wasn't even just while they were in a relationship with Paul Bernardo that these women suffered. He had a number of restraining orders taken out against him by women after their relationships ended. Because apparently he would harass these women. He would make obscene phone calls. He was not a very nice guy.
Not at all.
On top of that, he was a thief while he was in college as well. Because you go back to the Wall Street analogy, right? This is kind of why I picture him thinking of himself as a Gordon Gekko-like character. He wanted all of those things. He wanted the finer things in life. He felt like he deserved them. And if that meant that he had to get them by stealing, then so be it. That's what he was going to do. I do think, Gibbs, for Paul Bernardo, greed was good, to steal a line from Wall Street.
You did just steal it from Wall Street.
Although he said greed is good.
He did.
I changed it to was.
You moved it.
I did.
Yeah.
Paul also made some money by smuggling alcohol and tobacco from New York into Canada. Then he graduated from college and he got a job as an accountant at Price Waterhouse. Pretty good job. I think it was a junior accountant, but still out of college, pretty good job. But his sexual desires were growing darker and darker. And it would be in May of 1987 that he would begin sexually assaulting young women. He started stalking women at night, searching for victims. A lot of times he would follow women after they got off a bus at night until he found the right time to strike. And this guy would be pretty prolific as a you'd have to call him a serial rapist. Probably close to 25 incidents of either rape or attempted rape over a 5-year period.
It's crazy, man.
And this was a guy that put fear into an entire area for, quite a long time. Most of the attacks occurred outdoors. They included physical and sexual violence, as well as verbal abuse. He would threaten his victims, saying that he would come back to kill them if they told anyone.
Intimidation and fear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think he wanted to discourage them from going to police. So his first sexual assault occurred May 4th, 1987 in Scarborough. He raped a 21-year-old woman in front of her parents' house. So also, the other thing you're going to see, the guy was brazen about, the way that he did things. Bernardo followed this woman home and attacked her outside, right in front of her parents' house. And it was just 10 days later that he struck again. It was a 19-year-old woman in the backyard of her parents' house. So he's not abducting these women off the street, taking them to some out-of-the-way place. He's watching them get off of a bus or finding them somehow. A lot of times it was said it was after they had gotten off a bus. He's picking them out. He's following them. And then, in the case of these first two, he's attacking them essentially right there at their house, in their yards. So those two came really close together, about a week and a half apart.
Yeah.
The next attack would come a couple of months later, July 17th. He picked out a target and he attacked this young woman, but she immediately fought back. And at a certain point, he made the decision to leave her alone. September 29th, this time Bernardo broke into a house in Scarborough and he entered the bedroom of a 15-year-old girl, jumped on her back, put his hand over her mouth and threatened her with a knife. And it was only because her mother heard her burst into the room and screamed that Bernardo took off. So this was an attempted rape.
Yeah. Thank goodness the mom heard it,
Definitely. But to add another layer to this attack, a 19-year-old named Anthony Hainmeyer was convicted of the attack, of this sexual assault. A couple of years later, he served about 16 months in prison.
For something he didn't do.
For something that is known that he didn't do. Now, it wouldn't be known, he wouldn't be exonerated for many years later.
That's amazing, man.
After Bernardo would admit to this crime.
Yeah.
And he's not going to be the only one to take the fall for a crime that Paul Bernardo committed. So we talk about victims, right? There's a lot of victims in this case of Paul Bernardo and Karla Homolka. Obviously, there are the victims of the sexual assaults themselves. Horrible. But there's also a few victims that were convicted of these sexual assaults only to later find out that they didn't do it. I mean, they were victims of Paul Bernardo as well. All right, Gibbs, let's take a quick break to talk about our sponsor, Daily Harvest. You and I have been trying to eat healthier, and Daily Harvest has the kinds of things that we should all be eating. But who has time to make those type of things every day? Wouldn't it be great if you could get those picture-perfect nutrients without having to hit up the farmer's market and chop up tons of fruits and veggies? Well, you can. You can get all of your superfoods super fast with Daily Harvest. Daily Harvest sends these superfoods straight to your door. Each single serving cup comes ready to blend or heat. They're stored in the freezer, so they're ready whenever you are. And I'll tell you what I'm really into. I'm into the chia parfaits, and in particular, the chocolate protein and almond chia parfait. It is unbelievable. And my kids really like the overnight oats. It's a quick, healthy breakfast ready for them before they go to school. Your Daily Harvest cup is ready in just 30 seconds. So go to daily-harvest.com right now and enter our promo TCAT to get 3 items free off your first box. That's promo code TCAT for 3 free Daily Harvest cups at daily-harvest.com, daily-harvest.com, promo code TCAT. True Crime All the Time is sponsored by BetterHelp. You know, folks, therapy can feel like a big investment, but let's think about the state of your mind. It's just as important as your physical health. Traditional in-person therapy can cost anywhere from $100 to $250 per session, which adds up really fast. But with BetterHelp Online Therapy, you can save, on average, up to 50% per session. With BetterHelp, you pay a flat fee for weekly sessions, saving you big on cost and time. And you get quality care at a price that makes sense and can help you with anything from anxiety to everyday stress. Your mental health is worth it, and now it's within reach. I've used the BetterHelp service for years, and I love the fact that, I can connect with a therapist in a comfortable spot in my home on my laptop. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, having served over 5 million people globally. Your well-being is worth it. Visit betterhelp.com/TCAT today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/TCATT. So he, at this point, he's committed 2 rapes and he's attempted 2 others.
He's a serial rapist.
He is. But there's going to be a lot more. But it's in October of 87 that Paul Bernardo met Karla Homolka. So I just want to make sure in the timeline that we understand that he was already, as you said, a serial rapist by the time that he met Karla. And obviously she's a central figure in this case. At the time they met, Paul was 23 and Karla was 17. She was like a senior in high school.
Yeah.
At the time they met. I think she was still in high school.
Yeah, sounds like it.
But apparently the two were instantly drawn to each other. So much, in fact, they had sex the very day they met. I did a little research on this, Gibbs. At the time, and I don't know what it is now, but the age of consent was 14 years old. That seems very young to me.
I think it's really young.
But I know...
As a dad.
As a dad, that seems very young to me. But I know there are, or were, quite a number of states in the United States where the age of consent was 14 at some period of time. Maybe there still are some. I don't know. That just seems like a very young number to me.
I think so.
So we have to talk about Karla a little bit. Karla Homolka was born on May 4th, 1970 in Port Credit, Ontario, to Carol and Dorothy Homolka. She was the oldest of 3 children. Eventually, the family moved to St. Catharines, Ontario. That's where Karla and her siblings would grow up. Karla was described as pretty, smart, popular in school. And she came from a pretty good home. She received lots of love. She graduated high school in 1988. And like I said, by this time, she had already met and was dating Paul Bernardo. Over the years, Karla had developed a really deep love for animals. So after high school, she took a job at a veterinary clinic, as a lot of people do who have this unbelievable love for animals. It's a good job to go into.
Yeah, it is.
But Paul and Karla continued to see each other after they met. But one thing that Paul figured out pretty quickly was that Karla was different than any other girl he had ever dated. First of all, she wasn't turned off by his sadistic sexual desires. She was actually into it.
She liked everything he wanted to do.
She did.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if it was because she actually liked it or if it was because she liked Paul so much
She's willing to do anything
right,
for him.
that she was willing to do anything. But she was willing to do anything. You know, bondage, handcuffs, you name it. And that's okay between two consenting adults. Karla's going to do much worse. Right? She's going to commit crimes with Paul Bernardo. But the reason I talk about this is he couldn't make it work with his other girlfriends because they weren't into, I guess what I would call Gibbs his freakier side, his sexual side.
Yeah.
But Karla was. So their relationship grows. And as it does, Paul starts to become very controlling of Karla. I think that's his nature. He was a very controlling person. He told her what clothes to wear, how to style her hair, what to eat, what to think. Essentially, he's trying to control almost every aspect of her life. And then he starts demeaning Karla. He starts calling her names, just like he did with his mother, calling Karla fat, calling her ugly, which is a very strange thing for me, Gibbs. Obviously, I've been married for a long time, but I don't think too many women are keen on that or are going to stick around for very long in that type of environment.
I wouldn't think.
So I think that tells you a little bit about Karla. So a few things happen, over time as their relationship is growing. First off, Paul finds out that Karla is not a virgin, which I guess he thought she was. And he didn't like this. He was very disappointed by this. He got upset about it. But Gibbs, I just want to touch on the irony here of that. He's disappointed finding out that his girlfriend is not a virgin. Meanwhile, this guy slept with half of Canada.
Yeah.
And he's a serial rapist.
But yeah, he's upset over this. Go figure.
And he's mad about the fact that his girlfriend slept with a couple people before he met her. I mean, you try to wrap your head around that and you just can't. Now, the second thing is Karla finds out exactly what Paul has been doing, namely committing rapes against young women. And instead of running straight to the police, as you would think somebody in her position would do, she doesn't. She's okay with it.
Well, she's in love, man. She's in love.
I've been in love. I'm still in love.
You still are in love, aren't you, buddy?
Yeah. Woo.
Yeah. Clarify that one.
Honey, if you're listening to this one, that was a misspeak.
It was a oopsie.
It's one thing to be in love, Gibbs, and it's another thing to overlook some heinous criminal behavior.
Yeah.
I guess it's one of those questions, right? The woman you love, you find out that she's Eileen Wuornos. What do? Do you say, it's all right, honey?
We can
just don't do it to me.
We can overcome that. By the way, I like to sleep in my own bed at night with my door locked.
With 4 locks.
Yeah. Don't take it personal. Has nothing to do with you.
So after meeting Karla,
yeah,
Paul takes a little bit of a break, but not too much. Really, because it's just December 16th of 1987 that he raped a 15-year-old girl. And it's the very next day that Toronto police issue a warning to women traveling at night. And it's especially noted to be careful, exiting buses late at night. 7 days later, December 23rd. We're still in 1987. We have not left 1987.
Man, isn't it amazing? We're still in that, I say amazing. It's just.
Right. All of this has happened.
Yeah. 87, man.
Paul Bernardo raped a 17-year-old girl, threatened her with a knife. And this is significant because it's after this attack that he became known in the media as the Scarborough rapist.
There you go. He's got his name. It's what all these bad people like. They like to have their...
I think they do like it.
Yeah, they want to be known for something, So now he's known for something. Now he's...
Because obviously you don't want them to know your real name.
No.
But I guess you would want them to give you a name.
Yeah, I think you would.
I think you're onto something there because I think people would revel in that. Not people, but these kind of people, these bad individuals, much more so than it just coming out in the paper that an unknown man did X, right? Now it's the Scarborough rapist. But the other reason that this attack is significant is because the victim was able to give a very detailed description of her attacker to police. She said he was good looking, clean shaven, with no tattoos, and she estimated that he was about 6 feet tall. And she sat down with a police sketch artist and they compiled a composite sketch. And it turns out that it looks very much like Paul Bernardo. But at the time, Gibbs, they decided not to publish this composite sketch. I'm not sure why.
I don't know either.
I don't know the reasoning behind that.
I'm guessing they had a good reason.
Yeah, I'm sure they had a reason. I don't know what it is. There is another break, about 4 or 5 months. The next attack occurred April 18th of 1988. So we're finally out of 1987. Bernardo assaulted a 17-year-old girl. The next month, he was almost caught. He was staking out a bus shelter looking for his next victim. And a Toronto investigator noticed him hiding under a tree, ran after him, but Bernardo got away. And that must not have scared him too much because he attacked an 18-year-old woman just 5 days later. But this would be in Mississauga, Ontario, about 25 miles southwest of Scarborough. So maybe it did scare him a little bit.
Yeah, because he expanded his...
Because he decided
zone.
to go about 25 miles away. And then he took another break. It was October 4th, 1988. He attempted to sexually assault a woman back in Scarborough. But again, this victim fought him. He ended up stabbing her, but she survived. She had some stitches, but she survived, and she was able to fend him off. November 16th of 1988, he raped an 18-year-old woman in the backyard of her parents' house. And again, I don't know this complete situation of these, so I don't know if he knew for sure that the parents weren't home. But if not, if you don't have that knowledge, that seems awful risky.
Extremely risky.
But it's after this attack that a task force is formed to identify and arrest the Scarborough rapist. But it would be years before they would get any type of significant lead. But Paul and Karla are still together. And it's also around this same time that Paul started taking notice of Karla's younger sister, Tammy. And this fact is going to lead to something awful. So apparently Bernardo told Tammy not to have sex with anyone. He started to develop this attraction to her. And I think in his mind, he was already working out how to get what he wanted. He already has Karla.
Yeah.
And now in his mind, he wants Tammy.
How am I going to get her?
Oh, and by the way, he also has another woman that he's seeing on the side in Toronto. So he's dating Karla, secretly plotting to get Tammy, committing rapes around the Scarborough area, and dating a woman in Toronto.
It's crazy, man. I mean, it really is.
When you put it all together like that, so the next month, at the end of December, he attempted another rape, but this time a neighbor chased him off. And then he's quiet for about a full 6 months. as far as we know. It was June of 89. He attempted to sexually assault another young woman, but she fought him. She screamed, and the neighbors came out, and Bernardo took off. And apparently this girl, this woman, she scratched the shit out of him, scratched his face all up. So good for her. When you think about it, Gibbs, scratch the face, gouge the eyes, punch the nuggets. I mean, you do whatever you have to do.
Yes, sir. Exactly right. You fight like, if you're going to get in a fight, you fight like it's your last fight that you could end up dying. That's how hard you go. You go that hard. You don't go halfway. You go full steam, man.
You do whatever you can.
Yeah, that's exactly right. There's nothing about playing fair. There's nothing fair about fighting for your life.
And for you, there's just nothing fair about fighting in general.
No, man. That's exactly right. Isn't that one of the rules of Fight Club?
Because I've seen you sweep the legs, like
Danielson?
No, because Danielson didn't sweep the legs.
The other guy.
It was the guy from the Cobra Kai.
Cobra Kai. I'll sweep the legs. I'll vacuum the legs.
You do whatever you have to do.
Whatever I have to do, man.
But, we talk about this, victims fighting, and sometimes they can't, right? Sometimes you get put at such a disadvantage. You get taken by surprise.
Yeah, sometimes just the shock factor. You're
right.
in awe. You're like, your body's, you could freeze, and you're not.
Literally.
Yeah.
You could literally freeze up and not be able to move.
Yeah, and that's you can't blame yourself. It's nothing like that.
But if you can, obviously, if you can fight.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent for fighting, man.
You're just shocked that the word actually came out correctly?
Out right. It's like
you questioned yourself on your own word?
I did. I was like, did that really just come out that smooth? It's not like me. I'll take it. You're probably gonna leave that in there, though.
I am gonna leave that in there.
Of course. The one time I get it good, you're leaving it in.
Because you questioned yourself when you were right.
Yeah.
You know I was gonna say if you were wrong, so why don't you just wait for me to say it?
That's a good point.
And just go on.
It's all good.
So after that, August 15th, 1989, Bernardo had been stalking a 22-year-old woman. He was waiting outside her apartment, waiting for her to arrive home, and he sexually assaulted her. He committed sexual assaults in November, in December, and then in May of 1990. He attacked again, and this time, the victim was a 19-year-old woman. But after the attack, the victim had an unbelievable recall of what her attacker looked like. And they once again, with the help of police, created a composite sketch. The difference here, Gibbs, is this time they released it a couple of days after the attack, and it was published in newspapers in Toronto and surrounding areas. And apparently multiple victims had viewed this sketch after it was completed, and they agreed with it. They agreed that it looked like the man that had attacked them. So they put out the sketch. There was also a $150,000 reward for information that led to the capture of the Scarborough rapist. It's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
$150,000. It's actually going to balloon up to $300 at one point, maybe go even higher. But with that amount of money, as you can imagine, a lot of tips start pouring in. And some of the tips that came in were from people that knew Paul Bernardo. Now, in previous years, former girlfriends of his had contacted police with their suspicions. One woman in particular told police that Bernardo not only abused her, but he had raped her as well.
Can we go back to the tip line?
Yes.
What's the minimum that you would take to turn me in?
The minimum?
Yeah. You'd be like,
have you done something really horrible? Because it would have to be to get, you know.
That one thing.
Oh, that one thing. 50, 100,000.
Oh, okay. That's good. I was going to thought you were going to like 10 grand. But
10 grand's a lot of money. It just depends on what you've done.
Yeah. I was just trying to figure out, loyalty drops after what,
It drops at the Paul Bernardo line.
Well,
if you've done those things,
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I'm turning you in.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about. I'm talking.
If you went streaking and for some odd reason you were like a serial streaker,
yeah,
and they put $50,000 on your head,
You're calling in right away?
yes.
Yeah.
But not because I'm looking down at you for streaking. I just want the $50,000.
50,000. Yeah.
If it's $1,000,
You'll be all right.
I'll let you go
Yeah.
streaking.
10,000, you might be, you're not sure because it's
It's a coin flip at that point.
Yeah.
You get up into 50, 100,
Well, it's a no-brainer.
it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, your wife
And you would do the same thing.
Your wife would call me in before you called me in.
Yep.
She beat you to it just so she can do all that stuff she likes to do.
But again, it depends on what you've done, the severity of what you've done. If you didn't hurt anybody, except for the people whose eyeballs burned
Would they actually be?
when they saw you,
Yeah. Well, maybe they would enjoy it.
I doubt it.
You don't think so? Mm-mm. Huh. All right. Well,
I don't know.
that was that. I guess we'll get back to what we were talking about.
That was a good hypothetical.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, even the smallest step forward can make a big difference in your financial future. When you open a Chime checking account, you're one step closer to a better financial future with no maintenance fees, fee-free overdraft up to $200, or getting paid up to 2 days early with direct deposit. Making progress has never been easier. I think we've all been in that position where we've had an overdraft. Well, with Chime, you can overdraft up to $200 with no fees. That's amazing. And they have over 50,000 fee-free ATMs. Make progress towards a better financial future with Chime. Open your account in 2 minutes at chime.com/TCAT. That's chime.com/TCATT. Chime feels like progress. Banking services and debit card provided by the Bancorp Bank N.A. or Stride Bank N.A., members FDIC. Spot me eligibility requirements and overdraft limits apply. Fees apply at out-of-network ATMs. MyPay eligibility requirements apply. Credit limits range from $20 to $500. $2 fee applies to get funds instantly. Crime checking account required. Go to chime.com/disclosures for details. You know, my wife and I do a lot of shopping online, and we always use Rakuten. Rakuten is the smartest way to save money when you shop because you earn cash back at over 3,500 stores. We're talking fashion, beauty, electronics, home essentials, travel, dining, concert tickets, and more. Your favorite stores like Macy's, Nike, Sephora, Dyson, and Lowe's. And that's just to name a few. Pay Rakuten to send them shoppers. And Rakuten then passes on a part of that payment to its members as cashback. Cashback is deposited directly into your PayPal account, or Rakuten can send you a check. You can even maximize your savings by stacking cash back on top of other deals, like store sales and coupons. You're already shopping at your favorite stores. Why not save while you're doing it? It really is a no-brainer. Membership is free, and it's easy to sign up. Get the Rakuten app now and join the 17 million members who are already saving. Cashback rates change daily. See Rakuten.com for details. That's Rakuten. Your cash back really adds up. We were talking about some of his earlier girlfriends. So they were giving this information about Paul Bernardo to police. And one specific piece of information was that he drove a white Capri similar to the one that had been reported by several of the Scarborough rapist victims.
White Capri, those are ones that look like kind of like a Mustang. Mercury Capri.
No, I was thinking that was a big car.
I think it was a Capri. I think it looked like a Mustang.
I wasn't thinking
1990s.
I was thinking it was a big boat looking car, but I could be wrong. I really don't know.
Marquis.
I don't know what I'm thinking of.
Marquis was the big boat thing.
I'm not even sure it's a Mercury. Are you sure it's a Mercury Capri?
Capri. Yeah.
You're probably right. You're pretty good with cars. I'll go with you.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. People are going to write in and tell us one way or the other.
Correct.
Like the Monopoly man has no monocle.
He doesn't?
No.
You sure?
Oh my gosh. I'm positive because I've gotten about 1,000 emails.
You mean the little figurine, or do you mean on the
game?
On the game. I thought on the cover it has.
No.
You sure?
Apparently has never been a Monopoly man that had a monocle. I think we even have a voicemail about it later. But a lot of people think, they just picture him as having a monocle. So when you said he did, I was like, yeah, sure. In my head, he had one. But with this information, Gibbs, that police are getting from former girlfriends and people, so they're writing it up into a report, but it's never followed up on. And you also had previous coworkers of Paul Bernardo, an employee that worked at his bank, the wife of one of his friends, all of these people contacting police to say how much he looked like the sketch. But again, they're logging this information, but they're not following up on it right then. And this is one of the things that the police would take some heat for later on, after all the dust settles. It would be for their, what people called their mishandling of the investigation. I think a lot of people look at it and say, okay, maybe if you would have followed up on X, Y, or Z, you could have stopped this guy before he attacked more people and before he started murdering, right? Because we haven't talked about that yet at all. But as more and more people who knew Paul started to call police saying that he looked a lot like the sketch, eventually the police have to check him out. And they do. It's on November 20th, 1990.
Did you see this sketch? I didn't see it out there. Did you see it out there?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it looks like him, but it looks like a lot of people probably.
Do you think you could have an artist sketch me? You've sat across from me now for...
Yeah, we've talked about this before.
Yeah. But me now, do you think you could?
Well, I don't know. I think these artists are amazing. These police sketch artists are unbelievable. It wouldn't be their fault. I think it would be my fault in how I relayed the details. Because I don't know how to describe, I don't know how to put it into words, what somebody's nose looked like, or their chin or their mouth. I don't think I'd be very good at that part. But I think there's a lot of people that probably aren't good at it, and somehow these artists just and there's a lot of times they're pretty close.
Yeah.
So they go see Paul Bernardo. They interview him for about 35 minutes. And of course, he denied being the Scarborough rapist, although he did concede the fact, Gibbs, that he looked a lot like the composite sketch. So even he thought he looked like it. He even went as far as giving them hair, saliva, and blood samples for testing. Now, DNA was pretty new at this point in time. And it was said that in Toronto, which is a very big city, even in Toronto, they only had one qualified DNA scientist on staff, and they only had one technician for Toronto at this point in time. That's how new it is. And the samples taken from Bernardo were part of dozens of samples that they had taken in this case. So one scientist, one technician, and apparently they already had about 50,000 samples that needed to be worked, that had been collected from various police agencies in numerous cases, right, across Ontario. We're not talking just about in the Scarborough rapist case. It's going to take a long time for a couple of people to get through 50,000 samples.
That's, quite a bit.
Now, we know today it would be a much different story. The DNA process is much more advanced than it was back then. Police agencies put a lot more emphasis on it. They have a lot more people trained. So it would be different back then, much tougher to process DNA, especially in a timely fashion. That's how you ended up with all these departments having such big backlogs of DNA that it took them, I think you've talked about it on previous podcasts about not only the people and the time, but the cost.
Yeah, the cost. That's why I said if I hit the lotto, I'd love to just donate some money so some of these kits can get processed finally that are sitting in refrigerated trailers.
So after this interview, the detectives determined through their interviewing techniques, I'm using my air quotes again, that to them, it was unlikely that Paul Bernardo was a Scarborough rapist. They pointed out he was intelligent, he was good looking, he was cooperative, and apparently Gibbs, he was just a plain nice guy. No way could he be the Scarborough rapist.
Yeah, little did they know.
Yeah, you're right. They couldn't have been more wrong. So after this composite sketch was published, after he was interviewed, he stopped committing crimes. For a while, right? I assume he figured there was just too much heat, too much risk committing more crimes in that area. But he's not going to be quiet for long. And as we'll see as we go along, he's going to commit more heinous crimes, including murder. But I do want to talk about a woman by the name of Elizabeth Bang, because it's believed by some that Elizabeth may have been Bernardo's first murder.
Did you kill Elizabeth Bain on June the 19th, 1990?
It's a loaded question. I mean, are we going to go back and go through the time sequence of what happened in my life? I mean, I could just give a yes or no answer, but there's a lot of issues about that.
Right.
The Carla's and my role, who did what, where, when. This is why I said, did you guys, go down there to get a polygraph to see if she was telling the truth? Like, why didn't Bevan do it in the first place? I mean, he's polygraphing everyone with a Camaro. Why would he make a deal with someone and not give them a polygraph? It's not incomprehensible to me. Because now I'm sitting, my file says her version, and it's a lie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm not making frivolous points here. I mean, and now you're asking me after you said Peel Regional said I'm lying about this, and then you're saying I'm lying about my profile. You're saying I'm lying if I'm better or not. Now you're saying, hey, did you kill this person? I mean, well, you're saying I'm lying here, here, and here. I could say no, I didn't. But I mean, you already said I'm lying here.
So I wanted to play that short clip because they're specifically asking him if he murdered Elizabeth Bain. Now, this is part of a longer interview, and we'll play more clips of the interview in the second episode. And I don't know if you can get it from just the audio, but if you see the actual video portion of it, you can tell how smug this guy is. I don't know if it comes across exactly in just the audio, but he's like a smug little shit, Gibbs, sitting there using big words, the way he's rolling his eyes and making, it pisses me off.
Just want to grab him by his throat?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I want to talk a little bit about Elizabeth Bain. She was 22 years old when she disappeared from the University of Toronto's Scarborough campus on June 19th, 1990. And this was just a few weeks after the last rape had occurred in Scarborough. Her car was found 3 days later with a very large blood stain in the back seat. At the time of her disappearance, Elizabeth had been dating a man named Robert Baltovich for a little over a year. Elizabeth's body has never been found, but the police immediately focused in on her boyfriend, and Baltovich was charged with her murder. The prosecution asserted that he murdered Elizabeth in some type of jealous rage after finding out that she had been seeing other men. Because apparently she had been. This was something that they figured out. Or it was because she ended the relationship. This is what they thought. The problem was they didn't have a whole lot in the way of evidence. As the defense put it, there is no evidence of a confession, no evidence of a struggle, no weapon. You don't know when death occurred. You don't know where it happened. You don't know by what means. And you can only speculate as to the circumstances. So that's a lot of stuff that they don't have.
That is a whole lot of stuff.
Apparently, private investigators for the defense uncovered witnesses who said they saw Elizabeth with a man that was not Robert on the night of her disappearance. But police dismissed the idea that this could have been the work of the Scarborough rapist because he had never abducted and killed his victims. So Robert Baltovich was convicted in 1992, and he was sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole for 17 years. It was said that the harshness of the sentence resulted from his refusal to tell authorities where Elizabeth's body was, or to show any type of remorse for killing her. Now, Gibbs, if you didn't do it, those two things would be really hard to do.
Yeah.
Right? You can't tell somebody where a body was if you really don't know. And you would be sad that your girlfriend died, but a couple of years down the road, I think it would be hard to show remorse when you're being accused of killing her. Baltovich was eventually acquitted of the murder, but not until 2008, well after all of the Paul Bernardo acts would come to light. So you have to wonder if this was Paul Bernardo's first murder. Problem is, I don't know the answer to that. I just thought it was a very interesting kind of side note to this whole case. And you feel really bad for that guy if he didn't do it. and spent, 16 years in prison?
It's a long time to spend in prison for something you did not do.
Man, every day you would have to sit there knowing you did not do it.
And in prime of his life, really.
Oh, yeah. You can't get those years back. I think that's a good stopping point for episode 1. And episode 2, we'll dive into the murders committed by Bernardo, committed by Homolka, including the terrible events that happened to Karla's own sister, Tammy, on Christmas Eve, 1990.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Unbelievable.
But that's probably how episode 2 is going to start. All right, Gibbs, we got some voicemails. You want to hear those?
Let's hear them.
Hi, my name is Carrie from Reno, Nevada. I listen to your guys' podcast all the time when I'm running, and sometimes I even have to stop running because I'm in shock as to what you said someone has done. Sometimes I'm amazed at the horrible things people are capable of doing, but I'm definitely Team Gibby. Just wanted to throw that out there and keep your own time ticking.
I think we're always amazed by some of the horrible things that people do.
Yeah, it's shocking.
I like the way that she says, I'm definitely Team Gibby.
Definitely Team
She just
Gibby.
can't say, oh, I'm Team Gibby. I'm definitely Team Gibby, as in there's nothing else I could be.
Nothing but Team Gibby?
There's no other logical conclusion for me to come to.
Oh, I appreciate that. I appreciate it. Rex appreciates it. We all appreciate
Mike
it.
Honcho appreciates
Mike Honcho, yeah. That's cool. Thank you.
Hey, Mike and Gibby. This is Trevor from Vancouver, Washington. I just wanted to tell a quick story real quick. I was listening to the Wesley Allen Dodd episode last night at work, and I was talking with my coworker on the way home, telling him about this evil guy that lived right here in our backyard. And before I could say his name, he looked at me and he goes, "Was it Dodd?" I go, "Yeah, it was." And he started crying and said that he was best friends with Justin Isley, whose brother was Lee Isley, the one that got hung in the tree. He was like 4 or 5. And that the day it happened, he was with the little boy, and that they were supposed to take care of him and watch him. And since it was a nice neighborhood back then, they didn't think anything of it and kind of went ahead, kind of trying to play, like a little game of keep up. And he got snatched up, and he was just sobbing and crying, and it was pretty scary, listening to him tell it, because I had just gotten done with the episode, and then he told that story. So, it's pretty close to home, one of these episodes. So keep your own time ticking. Bye.
Talk about intense.
That would be intense.
Yeah.
We hear a lot of stories about people that have connections in one way or another to the killers, to the crimes that we talk about.
Yeah.
But imagine growing up, living your life. There has to be a lot of guilt there, even though, he didn't do anything wrong.
No.
But I think it would be natural. You would feel guilty.
Yeah.
In that scenario.
I can imagine.
Hey, Mike and Gibby, this is Kyle from Norco, California. I just wanted to call and say I love the podcast. I actually got to turn on you guys when I heard Mike Morford on Beyond the Darkness, talking about the Golden State Killer, and listened to both first and second season of Criminology, and obviously was turned on to True Crime all the time. From that, haven't gotten a chance to listen to True Crime all the time unsolved yet, but working my way as I'm sitting in traffic every day for work. So I also wanted to suggest two crimes you might want to take a look into. One would be Robert Michael Allen, who supposedly murdered several people, and a movie producer back in the 90s, I believe it was, late 80s, early 90s. Robert Michael Allen was actually my dad's cousin, so you guys do take a look into that. Any information I could give, I'd be happy to get for you.
All right. Appreciate that suggestion. I don't think that's one I've heard of.
No, I can't recall that either, so that's good.
Yeah, we'll definitely look into
Appreciate that.
Hey, Mike and Gibby, this is Tegan calling from Guadalajara, Mexico. I'm originally from Saskatchewan, Canada. I love the podcast. It's been my summer break. I'm a teacher down here, and I've spent many, many hours hanging out with you two, my boyfriend and my brother who I live with, saying I'm a psychopath, but that's okay. I just wanted to say that I just listened to the Erin Michelle Caffey case, and it reminded me of a case from Medicine Hat, Alberta in Canada, where there was a young girl. She was 12, and her 23-year-old boyfriend murdered her family. Anyways, I thought you guys might want to check out that case. Love the show. Love listening to you two back and forth and hearing all the information. Anyways, stay safe and keep your own time ticking. Bye.
All right. We appreciate that.
She say from Guadalajara.
Yeah. Originally from Saskatchewan. That's quite a trip.
It is.
The transplant down
cool
there.
Name. Tegan.
Yeah, that is a cool name.
Yeah.
Also like Medicine Hat.
Medicine Hat.
Where are you from? Medicine Hat.
Yeah. Where's that at? If you got to ask, you don't deserve to know.
I can't tell you.
That's right.
Hey, Mike and Gibby. This is Danielle from Westlake, Alabama. Just calling to say I love y'all's show. I listen to it all the time. And I was just calling to I have a case for y'all to look into. It's Judith Ann Neely. It's happened in Fort Payne, Alabama. She's a real piece of work. It happened back during the 80s, and it was just a bad thing altogether. If you could look into it, I think you'd really be interested in it. And Team Ferguson. So just wanted to check in with you guys. So keep your own time ticking. Team Ferguson, and calling you an answer. Have a good day. Bye.
Love it.
Team Ferguson.
She actually didn't say it twice, Gibbs. I just copied it.
Put it back in again?
No, she did say it twice. But that's good. Next time somebody does that, I'm going to copy.
See, now we're even. One Team Gibby, one Team Ferguson.
She didn't say, I'm definitely Team Ferguson, as if there's no other choice to make.
But she did say.
She did say it twice. Though. So I got that going for me.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike. Hey, Gibby. It's Nicole from Texas. I just wanted to say hello, and I wanted to make a suggestion for a podcast for the True Crime all the time. And the suggestion would be for the Good Heart Murders. It's just one of the ones that just seems interesting to me, and I thought maybe you guys would like to look into it. And I just wanted to say, Team Ferguson, keep your own time taken. Bye.
Number 3, that's 3, Gibbs.
I think you're setting me up, man.
No, I wasn't.
There's another Team Ferguson.
Yeah.
Not Team Fergie, but Team Ferguson. So they're being really formal.
They are. Now, if I would have copied the one from the previous voicemail and inserted it there, where you heard a different person's voice,
right,
then I'd be setting you up.
Yeah.
But I didn't do that.
No, this is great.
Makes me feel good. I appreciate it.
Bring them on, man.
All right, that's it, Gibbs. We got nothing in the mail. Nothing in the mailbag this week.
Nothing in the mail?
Nothing in the mail.
Nothing?
Nope.
No poker chips.
No poker chips. No
beef jerky.
No beef jerky.
Man.
I know you're disappointed. No beef jerky.
That's normally what we eat while we record.
I know we usually eat that right before we record.
Send them some snacks. We need some snacks, man. Beef jerky, chips. I don't care. Just make sure it's not rotted by the time it gets here.
By the time it gets here.
Yeah.
But that's it. That's it for another episode of True Crime All the Time. But we'll be back next week with part 2 of Paul Bernardo and Homolka.
Yeah.
It gets even more interesting. It gets even more horrific.
Well, this is
in part 2.
Yeah, absolutely. This is what you want to hear part 2 for sure. So don't miss it.
All right. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.
In the early hours of December 4th, 2024, CEO Brian Thompson stepped out onto the streets of Midtown Manhattan.
This assailant pulls out a weapon and starts firing at him.
We're talking about the CEO of the biggest private health insurance corporation in the world.
And the suspect,
he has been identified as Luigi Nicholas Mangione,
became one of the most divisive figures in modern criminal history.
It was targeted, premeditated, and meant to sow terror.
I'm Jesse Weber, host of Luigi, produced by Law and Crime and Twist. This is more than a true crime investigation. We explore a uniquely American moment that could change the country forever.
He's awoken the people to a true issue.
Finally, maybe this would lead rich and powerful people to acknowledge the barbaric nature of our healthcare system.
Listen to Law and Crime's Luigi exclusively on Wondery Plus. You can join Wondery Plus in the Wondery app, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts.